Getting out of debt, whether it be student loans, car loans, or mortgages, is one of the top financial priorities for the average person. If we have the money, the majority of us would avoid debt altogether. But ironically, some of the world's wealthiest people also have the most debt. By now, I'm sure you're aware that Elon Musk paid $44 billion for Twitter. Elon Musk's net worth is significantly greater than the price he paid for Twitter, but he chose to purchase the company with debt rather than paying cash. Why isn't it always preferable to pay with cash rather than borrowing money? Many billionaires choose to sell assets rather than pay with cash for homes, yachts, and private jets, even though these purchases represent a relatively small portion of their overall net worth. Why do millionaires deliberately take on so much debt? Elon himself had 5 mortgages totaling $61 million before he made the decision to sell all of his properties and go to Texas. Since they are already wealthy, they are well aware of how to generate significant returns on their money, whether that be through investing in commercial real estate, stocks, or putting it all towards another business. These people are experts. This is one of the main reasons wealthy people prefer to take out debt rather than just paying cash. Take Tesla stock as an example. Since I went public in 2010, the stock has increased from $4.15 to almost $900 before the stock split. This growth factor of over 200 times indicates an annual rate of return of over 56%, and that's just the returns that Tesla generates as a public company. Typically, the majority of gains are made by only 4 companies going public, so for it to make financial sense. A short time after Elon took out these mortgages, Tesla shares really fell to barely $36 per share in June of 2019. At the time, Elon was only beginning to recover from production hell and was on the verge of bankruptcy. Imagine, though, that Elon chose to sell $61 million worth of Tesla stock to pay for his houses instead of taking out a mortgage. Tesla stock has witnessed significant increase in 2019, so the $61 million worth of stocks he would have had to sell to do so would now be worth much more. This argument becomes even more pertinent when discussing depreciating assets like a private jet or a yacht, because these purchases are basically guaranteed to lose 70 to 80% of their value if you own them for a long enough period of time, so it makes no sense to pay for them upfront. The only reason you would pay for them upfront is for some sort of peace of mind. However, in terms of returns, taking out debt is unquestionably the best course of action aside from trying to maximize your cash flow. While billionaires may have tens or hundreds of billions of dollars in assets on paper, the vast majority of this wealth is merely paper and completely liquid. For instance, Elon Musk sold $8.4 billion worth of Tesla stock to raise the money he promised to put up for Twitter. The sale itself caused Tesla stock to decline by 12% in a single day. Imagine if Elon had to sell 5 times that amount to raise the money. Adopt a stock vesting policy that prohibits employees from selling their stock for a predetermined amount of time. When we read headlines like Sundar Pichai made $281 million last year or Tim Cook made $265 million last year, for example, know that while technically true, they won't actually have access to this money for years to come. The only money they have access to immediately is their cash compensation, which is a small portion of their total income. Therefore, while someone like Sundar Tim can comfortably afford, because California does not differentiate between capital gains and ordinary income, you must pay the whole 13.3% in California, bringing your overall tax rate to 33.3%. Going back to Elon's $61 million mortgage, we already determined that Elon would have left a ton of money on the table if he had paid for these properties in cash. This was before taxes were taken into account. If we add a 33.3% tax, we'll see that Elon would have had to sell $91.5 million worth of stock to pay for these properties. I'm not looking to argue whether this is a fair amount or not, but this strongly discourages billionaires from selling their stock. Let's say you obtain a $300,000 30-year fixed-rate mortgage in 1992. Initially, you may have paid half of your monthly take-home pay toward your mortgage, but let's say that after 30 years, your income doubles as a result of inflation and promotions. At this point, the same mortgage payment represents a quarter of your monthly income, even with growth estimates that are rather cautious. What if your income increases by 5 or 10 times in those 30 years? If so, your mortgage will be reduced to a negligible expense by the time you pay it off. This is especially true if you own a company in a high-growth industry, as many billionaires do. Governments also frequently use this strategy to lower their long-term debt loads, though I would argue that they have done so to an unreasonable degree. The best course of action for the average person is to pay off student loans, car loans, and credit card loans as quickly as possible, or not take out these loans in the first place. However, there is one area in which the average person could leverage this strategy, but it requires that they are disciplined and willing to make sacrifices. Another reason to restrict your usage of debt is that Dave Ramsey will be ecstatic when you become debt-free. If you're interested in learning additional ways billionaires succeed, watch the video after this one and let's get started.